Hey everyone, this is Christopher Luxon, the former CEO of Air New Zealand.
This is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
This is Tracy Ibarra. I'm in Executive Solutions at Dell Technologies.
This is Travis Chappell, founder of Build Your Network. If you are wanting to learn how to embrace change,
To navigate through disruption as a leader,
then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast.
The Leadership is Changing podcast.
the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend,
my very good friend, Denis Giannoutsos.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsos.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. And I want to welcome you to this Ask Denis episode. It's a freestyle episode that happens once a week. I'm either asked a question by our listeners, or I share some of my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. Hey team, if you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, feel free to go ahead and check them out. We would love to see you on those different platforms. Okay, I'm going to share with you a topic today, and it's titled Ask for Help. There's many aspects to this title of the show today, or of the actual episode, around Ask for Help. Many don't know where to ask for help. Many don't want to ask for help. They don't want to be seen as being weak. They don't want to be seen as somebody who's vulnerable. In fact, they get told at times just to harden up. You'll be right, get on with it. And they're not. And so why am I covering this week? I'm seeing a lot more and more people going through this, in particular around change, around not being resilient enough, burnout. There's so much going on for them. There's this tipping point for a lot of them. Because you see, many people are going through the change, the unexpected, the pressures that are actually pushing them all the time. Last week, I did an episode called Coping with the Unexpected. Today, I want to talk to you about asking for help. Because you see, it can be overwhelming, team, in what you're going through and what you're experiencing. For a lot of people right now, COVID for the last year and a half has been hard for them. They've been in lockdown. They've been in and out of lockdowns. There's the unknown, the unfamiliar territory. It's working from home. At first, it was a little bit of a novelty, but it's difficult for others as well throughout time. And the thing here is that on the weekend, I went to a conference and the topic of mental health was discussed. There were two guest speakers. One was a 23-year-old lady or young lady who talked about the experience of her dad committing suicide. But it wasn't just about her dad committing suicide. It was about the downflow, devastation, and effect that it had on the whole family, friends, and the community. And she shared about her experiences and what happened here, and really is up to us to actually help people out, depending on what they're going through. There was also another guest speaker, and he came from a farming background and talked about how, for him, he went through some mental health issues for him. One day, he was okay, and it was just cold weather, or it was just real muddy, and one thing on top of another thing on top of another thing, and something breaking down on the actual equipment and so forth, and he found it very hard. And one day, it just snapped. And what you'll find, team, is that there are people who are like this all the time. In this country here in New Zealand this week, we had an Olympic high-performing athlete who didn't compete in the last Olympic Games, but has competed in previous Olympic Games, commit suicide. She noted in her actual letter that she actually found the pressures and so forth around sports and high performance and other things as well. And it sort of makes me want to ask the question around, how are people asking for help, or where can they go to, or can they actually ask for help? And what's really quite interesting here to understand is that we don't always see the signs from people. 1 minute they'll be happy, laughing, and so forth, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And it's really quite sad to see all that happening. And I know that a lot of people today are under pressure. I'm seeing it with leaders. I'm seeing it with individuals, entrepreneurs. And so I'm just going to say to you, team, that burnout is one of the big factors in it. We're finding that, as I've said in other episodes, people are going from their bedroom to their bedroom because that's where their laptop is, or into the kitchen, into the lounge area. They're working really hard all day, and then they look up around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and realize they haven't even had lunch yet. Don't worry, I'll do one more email, one more meeting, and they keep going, and then they look up at 7 p.m. and they still haven't had lunch yet. Taking time out and breaks is really important. If you are not really good at taking breaks, well, maybe getting some help by actually asking some of your mates or your neighbors in the neighborhood to go out for a walk with you. But you hold each other accountable to that and do that. Look, a lot of what I'm talking about is easy to say, but not always easy to do, right? And it takes discipline and so forth. Team, I'm going to really encourage you because you see, if I take burnout as an example, something I share with people when I'm coaching them one-on-one or in different sort of scenarios, that it actually tends to happen and it sort of tends to creep up behind you and smack you from behind. It's easy that it happens. It's a bit of a slippery slope. But then for someone to come back from burnout, when I ask that question to various people, how long did it take you or other people you know? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And some people say that some people haven't even come back to work from the burnout. It's a very easy thing to happen. And for a lot of people, they get into that trap of burnout. But burnout can mean so many different things to different people for sure. And so I'm going to encourage you that if you are going through things like this right now, if your confidence is knocked, or if you're in an abusive sort of relationship, or you're in a scenario whereby you don't feel great and you're just fighting things within inside you, I'm going to really encourage you to go and get the relevant help. Once again, that's easy for me to say, but not always easy to do. I remember I had a teenager that I worked with a few years ago that reached out to me who was not in a good space. And we managed to help him and move forward in his life. And he's doing fantastic things and has done very well. So I'm going to encourage you to put your hand up, team. Putting your hand up is one important thing. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help, but make sure you get the right help. Go to somebody that you trust, people that you know and you trust. I even had somebody reach out to me recently. They didn't really know me, but they've been listening to the podcast and they felt like there was a little bit of rapport with me, even though I've never met them before, but because I've listened to the episodes of people I've interviewed and also the Ask Denis episodes. And team, I'm going to really say to you that if there's anything I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out to me on social media, on my email. The team will actually make sure that my email's in the show notes. And feel free to reach out to me anytime because it's important for you to reach out to somebody. Important for you to talk about these things. Important for you to get help to move you forward. Moving forward can be a long time, can be a short time. But the important thing is that you do talk to somebody about things and you get the appropriate help to help you through things to move you forward. There is a lot going on for all of us in life today. If you're feeling those pressures, please ask for help. Team, listeners, I know that some of you are going through this, but just know there is help. If you want it, feel free to reach out anytime. Listeners, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world where leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, put a review, put a rating. If there's any, feel free to share them with your friends, your family, your network. And if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question for my guests as I interview them, or if you have a question for the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, feel free to send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.